the sponsorship of the Degama Group. Are you interested in positioning your brand and expanding your client portfolio in the mining industry? Seize the opportunity to participate in the most influential mining magazine in America, effectively targeting mining companies, contractors, and key decision makers. Gain maximum exposure for your brand through our extensive international multi-platform presence, which includes a TV program, specialized websites, and social media, effectively reaching a staggering audience of 2.7 million people. Contact us to learn more about our annual advertising packages and secure your spot in Rumbo Minero magazine. The best business tool you can have in the mining industry. Make smart investments. Invest with the leaders. Find out more at www.rumbominero.com.
Welcome to Rumbo Minero. Cesar, how's it going?
What a pleasure, Jorge. My colleague Cesar Campos and I, Jorge Leon Benavides, are collaborating on the development of the Rumbo Minero program.
Our guest today is none other than Dr. Alejandro Narváez, the president of Petroperu, and we will be having a detailed interview with him. I believe this topic is of great importance, Cesar, for the entire Peruvian population, as there is much to discuss in our forthcoming extensive interview due to the extensive number of inquiries that need to be addressed. And where exactly are we headed with Petroperu, and what is our current position right now? So much to discuss.
I am fundamentally glad that you have accepted our invitation, Jorge. As Petroperu is an immense universe we have often committed ourselves to. Our joy stems from the fact that you have justly embraced this opportunity. Here, we will explore various problems. I am curious to know Mr. Narváez's opinion on the financing and recovery plan. Additionally, can you update me on the current situation of the flexi-coking unit at the new
total
Talara
count
refinery?
of individuals who work for the
There
organization?
are numerous questions to ask, correct? The amount is substantial.
Absolutely. Let's begin with the week's top mining news, which will be presented by Gabriela Chicoma.
Thanks for sending the mining headlines this week, Jorge. The total character count is around 89. According to José Salardi, the Minister of Economy and Finance, the government is advancing in its objective to improve the operational conditions of Petroperu, the state-owned company. In addition, Moody's Rating, an internationally recognized risk assessment agency, assigned a long-term debt issuer rating to Petroperu and evaluated the market-issued bonds issued by the company. Resulting text, approximately 209 characters. B3 internationally from a stable viewpoint, emphasizing its significance in the Peruvian market and its crucial function in fuel supply across Peru. The Romina project involving lead, zinc, and silver at Vulcan Mining Company is moving forward according to the planned timeline. The tunnel and ramp construction, which are essential parts of the project, construction on this project commenced in December 2024, and thus far, all preliminary groundwork and construction facilities have been fully completed, representing a 100% achievement. This includes the powder magazine, the dismantling area, the workshop, the offices, the sedimentation ponds, and the electrical substations, platforms, and access. The mining company Buenaventura signed a concession contract for a water project at El Algarrobo with the Peruvian government on Tuesday. This is a bet to develop a significant copper mine at a time when the production of the red metal has stagnated in the country. According to the government agency Pro Inversión, that signed the agreement with Buenaventura, the investment for the project could total around $273 million over a period of 10 years. Although this will depend on a social pact between the company and the neighboring communities.
All right, we find ourselves in our studios alongside Dr. Alejandro Narváez, who is the president of Petroperu. Welcome, Mr. Narváez.
Thanks. Morning.
Hey, Mr. Narváez. Okay, let's go straight to the topic. Both the Economy and Finance Minister, Mr. Salardi, and the Energy and Mines Minister, Montero, are involved. Mr. Montero has shown trust and full support, expressing his agreement. How can we optimize and improve the conditions of Petroperu? How do you perceive this backing that we are discussing? We talked. There have been a multitude of opinions regarding Petroperu and about this matter concerning the allocation of a subsidy by the state. Well, here we go. We've got loads of questions. First up, let's talk about the backing from the ministers. I think there's plenty to discuss there.
I am grateful for that gesture. I can only imagine the reasons behind it. Indeed, he is quite familiar with the work we have been doing lately. Thus, I am convinced that there is still hope for Petroperu. It starts to become green, doesn't it? That's somewhat what the data suggests. His usual activities, economics, like energy and mines, is to closely monitor the figures. We regularly check in with them, typically on a weekly basis. I would say almost every time we have meetings. And they are informed about what we are doing. and that is great.
You've directly addressed numerous criticisms, e.g., this text comprises 57 chars. The bankruptcy myth surrounding Petroperu is false. Petroperu actually has a positive net worth, totaling $2.46 billion. The given amount sums up to $2.46 billion in value. You mentioned that our non-insolvency status is attributed to the operational units we manage, which undoubtedly provides us with stability and relief, enabling us to breathe. You, however, did qualify that they have liquidity problems. You have been saying this since November. Dr. Narváez, how are we doing with those liquidity problems currently? Let's just look at that point.
Yes, it is definitely a myth, correct? It is a myth that I believe is baseless, maybe even a myth that serves certain interests, right? To show the company in a state of bankruptcy, real bankruptcy, not just technical bankruptcy, okay? Indeed, this topic has been discussed repeatedly across different platforms by the executives of Petroperu. And I find that quite unserious and also irresponsible, because when messages of this kind are announced of a company listed on the Lima Stock Exchange with shares registered under its name. When we report their accounts quarterly to the SBB, I believe that these statements are profoundly perilous. Wouldn't you agree? Just imagine if stocks were traded on the stock market in a manner similar to the current companies we possess right now. That would create chaos.
I just want to point out that credit rating agencies also, in some way, affect the entire financial issue that you are experiencing, and they do not rate you positively.
Yes, the earlier assessments from Fitch and SYP, and now Moody's has recently evaluated it a few weeks back with a fairly positive opinion. To us, it seems like a strong opinion we hold. So let's say it's really spot on. They know our financial records and how we manage things. We are a company that values public transparency. With respect to the earlier question regarding liquidity, you know, most of the businesses I'm aware of in the market typically struggle with working capital issues. Many are functioning with negative working capital, and we currently have that problem. In any case, it is inherited from previous administrations. I have been at the forefront of the company for 4 months, and in that short time we have made significant improvements. What we have done, if the word fits, is a bit stabilize the sick. And at this moment we are beginning to recover market share. We should aim to sell more than we previously did and revive our refineries. That is to say, we see a promising future for Petroperu at this moment.
Now, currently, Petroperu is operating lots 1 and 6 until October, right? Even though Ponderosa Energy secured the bid for these lots, their proposal regarding financial capacity is still undergoing a review process. We know. If this bidding does not succeed, would you apply again for both lots and consider having a partner strategic for this project?
Yes, I was reading this morning in some media about the observation that the comptroller is making to Peru Petro. Well, and especially when taking into account the experience and the trajectory, I think it's also important to consider the economic and financial stability of the company that wins those 2 lots. And most of us are more or less aware that he doesn't have any experience in this industry. One of the companies that is part of this consortium is a relatively small real estate agency. In my personal viewpoint, when choosing in an industry as competitive and complex as hydrocarbons, it is crucial to take into account one's experience and the historical background, don't you think? The history? I think that was ignored. They are qualifying now, and I believe the economic and technical evaluation is done. And I am unsure about what the final decision will be concerning Peru Petro. We are currently operating Lot 1 and Lot 6. We will continue until October, as the concession lasts for a span of 2 years. We would really enjoy that. I believe all Peruvians wish for us to establish a vertically integrated public company. Wouldn't you agree? However, that hasn't been the case. We are in competition with private firms. In the event that it were to fail to progress, let's say that one, we will continue to participate in finding private partners. Because both Lot 1 and Lot 6 are small in size, then the overall size of the lots is also small. We present ourselves alone. And when it comes to larger lots, like Lot 10, we are already working with a private company. We are involved in a public-private partnership where we own 40% of Lot 10 and the remaining 60% is held by a private company. This collaboration is significant. Do we promote our employees internally?
A topic that was highlighted a few weeks ago, Dr. Narváez, the newspaper Gestion still holds concerns for economic agents and those who analyze Petroperu's future, and this is what is mentioned. that Petroperu has officially indicated that it has suspended the flexi-cooking unit due to commercial reasons. However, despite a recommendation from the ExxonMobil advisor from abroad stating it cannot be operational, they have made it operate. According to the newspaper Gestion, it indicated that this puts at risk the operation of this important unit for 3 quarters, considered one of the most modern, certainly, in the oil industry. What is the reply? This text has 20 shars.
It is considered amongst the top 7 modern structures worldwide. Peru takes immense pride in this fact. It is a masterful, extraordinary, spectacular work. I am grateful to be acquainted with the Cartagena refinery facility, Colombia, from Rio, Mexico and Chile, known for the Bio region. The impressive nature of our refinery stands out when compared to others. Similar to the most recent refinery that was built in the city of Cartagena, which is located in Colombia. Thus, it is a new creation with top-notch technology, modern and complex.
We reported on it at Rumbo Minero, since we were present when it began operations. But I am asking about the observation that has been made to him on this issue.
First and foremost, ExxonMobil serves as our licensee. We have this license or contract in place for a period of 20 years. We have an intimate relationship with ExxonMobil. We work continuously. In fact, today, Wednesday, we're holding a virtual meeting. Petroperu's technicians are always in touch. They recommend and suggest, let's discuss crucial subjects in order to prevent any technical complications at the refinery facility. It is true that from January through a few days in February, there have been some issues. A specific interruption has taken place in the flexi-cooking unit. And subsequently, after making the required corrections, the technicians began addressing the issue, and presently we are functioning at our maximum potential. At this very moment, at this precise minute, we are in the process of loading in.
So there is a risk, Dr. Narváez. You cannot state that definitively.
Categorically, at this moment, we are operating with 14.
No, but it could be at risk of being stopped for the next 2 quarters.
Sure, it's possible, right? That's not off the table. This is definitely a convoluted industry with intricate technology. It would be great if we all had a clear comprehension of what that entails. Hence, that likelihood always exists unaltered. However, this is undoubtedly a unique encounter for our country, since there is no industry comparable to ours in Peru. Consequently, it also represents an opportunity for acquiring knowledge and skills, doesn't it? We are learning as we move forward. It's a learning experience. But I trust the technicians at Petroperu, who are top-notch. Nothing changes with those from other countries. They are performing excellently. At this moment, we are loading across all units. We are approximately at 80,000 to 85,000 barrels, including this latest FSK unit. We feel content with our achievements. Our work is proceeding excellently. Anyone who wishes to visit can do so and will soon notice that it is a truly complicated industry, to be frank. Hey, the last unit, I'm marking it, and this is how I end. It has 18 floors. The flexi-cooking unit comprises a total of 18 floors, all specifying its vertical dimensions, more than 50 meters high.
At this moment, Mr. Narváez, one of the aspects that we need to discuss, many complaints are heard concerning the effort, that Petroperu is putting in to establish itself as an efficient company. Wouldn't you agree? But one of the complaints is the number of workers, and this is not new. Numerous governments have been augmenting and establishing unfamiliar administrations that are challenging to comprehend, leading to confusion. Well, what can we do about this matter? Because it is genuinely believed that there are too many employees, too many high salaries, to say it differently. This and what kind of work can be done to ensure that one truly sees? It's the very first thing one does upon entering a company, particularly a private one. No? The first thing he does is see the people he has and what is unnecessary. So it's not exactly a flourishing corporation, rather it needs to carefully handle its financial matters, doesn't it?
Indeed, there are multiple responses to your inquiry. Certainly, we have taken over a company that currently employs 2,600 individuals. This is the result of a series of decisions made in the past by former management teams from past presidents. Petroperu's current state is a consequence of a series of misguided choices made in previous years, summing up to a total of 99 characters. We are currently launching a second voluntary retirement program. One was done last year. It had some success. This time we're going to make it a bit more appealing. There is no doubt that the program will warmly embrace a considerable amount of participants.
So are you willing to provide a percentage that might be lowered?
Indeed, we are discussing approximately 60 to 65 individuals who might withdraw under this second retirement plan.
From 2,000?
Of 2,600 that we have. Yes, that is one. And the other is that there is also a significant number of workers retiring this year. More or less about 100
But
people
what
are
size
retiring
is required?
this year.
It could possibly be perceived as more.
It's debatable, isn't it? It depends, eh? We could be talking about 1,500 workers. The increase is fundamentally due to the fact that the Talara refinery requires a lot of labor. It's quite an intricate field. It isn't easy to comprehend it unless you are present, correct? This is the situation we find ourselves in. There is a great deal of unawareness, leading to numerous individuals giving uninformed opinions about the significance of this sector for our nation.
Absolutely. This is why it is essential to comprehend the actual technical expertise required. Yet, as you have aptly mentioned, there are many governments that have been hiring and hiring. And the truth is that is one of the factors contributing to poor marketing for Petroperu, as it has such a large workforce. The first thought is why there are so many people, if not that many, are required, right? And the company is also requesting resources. There are so many people inside, and yes, this is a subject that definitely needs to be looked at, don't you think?
Right now, we are exactly in the process of resizing the dimensions, you know. There is a restructuring plan in place, and that will surely take effect. Will produce the outcomes we want. We don't have, let's assume that we are discussing the precise workforce required for a company of this magnitude. The scope could range from roughly 1,500 individuals to approximately 1,000. I believe there is a considerable margin that we must work on adjusting a little, isn't that so? That's the work we have to do. The problem is not an easy one. Why? Because they are all appointed workers. They are, you know, indefinite. It doesn't refer to a temporary contract that just says, hey, this is it, and then you go home. That's not the point, is it? There are people looking for jobs. There are people who need work. What we must do is become a little more creative and daring in order to grow as a business and to call for the labor force in the nation.
One that I was lacking, you know. I wanted to communicate to you, Dr. Narváez, that it pertains to the concerning situation of Lot 192 following Alta Mesa Energy's unilateral decision to withdraw, which resulted in leaving debts of 30 million. Additionally, I want to mention something important that I don't want to forget, which are the 3 attacks that the pipeline has endured. Peruano, which certainly generates an anticipatory situation regarding how a response will be formulated. But let's begin with, how is the Petroperu director thinking of addressing the problem of the exploitation of Lot 192?
This particular issue has a long history dating back to the year 2018. It was during this period that James Atkins served as the chairman of the board, leading the selection process. The business that would partner with Petroperu is from that year. It went through Carlos Paredes Lanata. He served from 2019 to 2021 for nearly 2 years, amounting to a total of close to 24 months. It was ultimately Alta Mesa, there were those people who chose this company, who brought in a company, specifically the Bank of America, BOFA, to select that company to accompany us. They selected Alta Mesa. The selection process cost a payment of $5.6 million has been made to Petroperu, quite unusual. And in the end, Alta Mesa has left us. Well, this is a serious issue. And we have had to assume Alta Mesa's liabilities and assets. That's what we are doing right now. We are dealing with a debt of about 40 million sols, specifically 37 million sols. And I repeat, we are taking on that debt that was left behind because Alta Mesa's share has been acquired by Petroperu. Presently, we are engaged in discussions with Peru Petro to gather more information. At what point can we actually initiate the, let's say, search process?
They have a need to tidy up the place.
To commence, it is necessary that we find a private collaborator, such as Alta Mesa, to partner with us on this particular occasion. Don't you agree? That represents the primary issue. The secondary matter concerns the pipeline. Remember that the pipeline is critical heritage or a critical national asset. It belongs to the state. However, we take on, let's say, the care of that pipeline to ensure it remains operational, costing us approximately $100 million each year. And there are continuously these types of attacks. We just read about the latest attack. This incurs significant costs for the company. If we deducted those $100 million a year, that obviously Petroperu would be better, wouldn't it, in terms of its accounts?
Now, Petroperu ended the year 2024 with losses. Specifically, they incurred a loss of approximately 800 million, which is 200 million lower than the initial projected amount, which was 1,030 million.
Indeed.
And in the ones you specified, the earnings for this period will amount to 137 million. Taking into account that January has been a month negative, do you still maintain your projection?
Well, this is an optimistic forecast. We are constantly reassessing our future estimates. January is a difficult month, and February isn't much better. Some issues have arisen. Overall, the first 2 months are problematic. We have experienced the famous anomalous waves that have closed the Peruvian coastline for 20 days. This has stopped us from unloading and loading products. We have spent 20 days operating in Talara, and it is affecting us severely. To the income of the company. Indeed, February is showing some improvement for us. We have achieved an EBITDA of $29 million, which is quite significant for the financial system. We have gross utilities of 27 million in February. We're doing quite well. Our current market share stands at roughly 30%, whereas our overall receipts comprise 25%. We have successfully regained 5 percentage points, which is a noteworthy accomplishment by all the individuals involved. We are in Petro, and we aspire that this year we will reach net profits of 120 to 130 million. I know we will achieve it. All the refineries are operating at 100%. The Conchan one, the Iquitos one, and of course Talara. It was partially operational. Iquitos was working for 15 days and then not for 15 days. Similarly, well, in this case, Conchan. Right now, we are reactivating all the refineries. We are opening markets abroad to Bolivia, to Ecuador. That is to say, we are following a different policy than what was practiced until last year. The accumulated loss is approximately $1.8 billion at the end of last year. This is a legacy from past administrations. Over time, we need to gradually absorb that, don't we? This means we should expect to have profits soon.
And regarding that situation, why hasn't the financial audit by Pricewaterhouse been confirmed yet?
It should start working now.
He'll begin working.
Yes. The final report must integrate us in June, the audit for the year 2024. It is a serious company. I trust that they will do a decent job as they have usually done. In fact, they have been audited for 8 years for this purpose. Straight. I believe they will persist throughout this year and also in the years 2024, 2025, and 2026, thereby maintaining their continuation. Our hope is for the report to be released as quickly as possible and state what needs to be stated.
What do you think, and how do you feel about the criticisms of Engineer Pedro Chira's appointment as president of Petroperu, given that he has led Petroperu and is seen as a statist? At some point, you too were given the same nickname, and it appears that in the eyes of their critics, right, that with Oscar Vera, Gargurevich also forms a statist trilogy that has taken over these important state-owned companies.
It's really sad to hear this opinion from regular speakers. They usually express it in a different way. I disagree entirely. I wouldn't call myself a statist, not in the slightest. I am a professional aiming to apply the principles of running a business in a serious, professional, and technical way. All companies like Petroperu, which is a company, private law public, they seek to maximize profits, right? Maximize gains. The primary objective of every company is to distribute dividends to its shareholders, and that is precisely what we are accomplishing. And the most important thing is that, and then, well, obviously we must manage efficiently with transparency, being accountable to the country, right? It is a newly adopted approach compared to the previous one. I have diligently monitored the figures for a period of 25 years. This visit marks my second time at Petroperu. In the first phase of my leadership, which lasted from 2003 to 2005, I encountered a company that was suffering from substantial losses in the millions. We reversed that situation, achieving a 53% market share. And then all of that was lost. We started with a 25% share. We lost the most important mining companies, which were our clients. Now we are trying to recover everything that was lost. Therefore, we have chosen to embrace an alternate viewpoint, envisioning the future and centering our efforts on becoming a pivotal company, ensuring our nation's energy security. And I am confident that little by little, Peruvians are beginning to understand that we have a very modern refinery. It is a company that plays an important role in the country's economy. It is the main contributor to the public treasury. This entity contributes a significantly high percentage to the national GDP. And I think it can do more. The Peruvian company has more to offer.
Now, how do you perceive the overall outlook for the fuel market recovery? Could you elaborate on your perspective regarding projections on both a global and national level?
I am optimistic. Well, there is, let's say, an increasingly interesting perspective from major international players. Aramco, it's here. Companies, for example, from Brazil. What does this mean for you?
How do you interpret Aramco's decision to proceed with this acquisition?
It seems to me, with every right, it is an open market.
What signal do you see with your experience?
Yes, an interesting market with tough competition is going to be presented, tough and pure. We must prepare ourselves to enter into competition in that particular market. I think it's done. I believe the Primax faucet chain purchase is complete. CNPC, the third largest in the world, has interests in working with us, in this case, the Chinese company. We are in talks with Gazprom, a renowned company that shares our interest. We are engaging with top-tier multinational corporations on a large scale. And why do they approach Petroperu? Because they see in the last few months, let's say, trust, credibility, clear direction, guidance, not influenced by politics in a technical sense.
Peru is a country, oil country. It's a nation because we don't even cover our own. A demand, huh? 240,000 barrels daily, we can't handle that. But, well, there's been little exploration, which often happens in mining, where they sometimes don't explore and just say it's not an oil country. But is it an oil country?
Here's the reason. No exploration happens. Petroperu is the company responsible for promoting exploration. It manages the concession plots. What we have seen shows the numbers clearly. In the last 30 years, there has been a brutal decline. 30 years ago, our oil production was at 120,000 barrels of crude, but now it has significantly declined to only 40,000 barrels. We are left to wonder who should be held responsible for this alarming decrease. Who should promote exploration and oil production, Petroperu?
Do you think that the issue of exploration and promotion, as well as Petroperu, have not performed their duties correctly?
So. I really don't think so.
So we can obtain new lots?
I don't think so. This case of Alta Mesa is an example of how it can be evaluated. Or the situation with La Poderosa, especially Lot 6, which is not properly assessed for companies with financial stability and proven expertise. And that's why right now the Comptroller's Office is observing this case. In other words, these are specific experiences that needed to be noted.
Okay. Mr. Narváez, thank you very much for being on Rumbo Minero. We hope to have you again at another time to discuss We, the people of Peru, are all hoping for its success, since this is a project that belongs to every Peruvian, and we firmly believe in its success. The success of Peru will be due to his management. But additionally, the patience of Peruvians, diminishes when we witness a country economically disadvantaged in great need that persistently requests financial assistance for subsidies. Well,
just a final note, the state does not give money to Petroperu. What it does is lend money, which is not the same. And as a shareholder, it invests capital. Any company, it acts somewhat like that on one side, and on the flip side, we have the most affordable gas in the market. 15 sols for premium gas, while competitors ask for 20.
We all desire the venture to generate profits, desiring it to be a lucrative endeavor.
Trust me, it will be that way.
Thanks for joining Rumbo Mine. This message has 36 characters. Commercial break and we will return. Currently in the studio with José Gonzáles, the widely recognized director of the magazine and renowned international editor of Rumbo Minero, capturing his valuable insights. Hi, José. How's it going?
It's great to have you here, Jorge. Always a wonderful time with you.
José, we just dedicated 2 segments of the program to Petroperu. Interview with the president of institution, Alejandro Narváez. An individual is undeniably encountering a challenging predicament. We have already had a meeting, I think it was one with Cesar, and numerous guests talking about the future of Petroperu. Could you please share your diagnosis at this moment concerning the current situation is, how global players are shifting, and what interest could exist in Peru in any of the actions that have been undertaken or shifted?
At this moment, practically this week, Jorge, there are 2 fundamental events that must be taken into account to assess the situation of Petroperu. And from this point forward, to begin with, it is officially recognized the Romero Group confirms the sale of Primax Aramco, which is the oil company known as Aramco. Coming from Saudi Arabia, the planet's largest oil company, which possesses a 10% share of the worldwide market, annually allocating a budget of around $53 billion towards capital investment. And the question that it asks us, why does Aramco buy Primax? According to the Saudi perspective, instead of reducing oil consumption, our plan would involve increasing it due to the finite lifespan of oil, estimated to be around 50 years in duration. As it is common knowledge, individuals age between 30 to 50 years. And that at that moment, consumption will begin to decline. Saudi Arabia is said to attempt to sell the ultimate barrel of oil to the last country willing to buy it. And the global south The emissions in developing nations are going to take longer to change their automotive fleet because of per capita income levels and economic circumstances. They buy the distribution market in Chile, they purchase in Peru, consolidating this part of the Pacific, ensuring their position. Distribution, they are investors in Handoil in Peru, that is to say, they have transmission if such a thing can be applied to oil. The next logical move would be to integrate both upstream and downstream processes. And try studying to check if it is reasonable to refine oil in Peru. Given these circumstances, Petroperu, recognized as Peru's leading and most important energy company, effortlessly dominates the Talara refining industry by holding the largest market share. It transforms into an appealing asset, independent of its financial status or situation. Moody's aligns with other rating agencies to evaluate Petroperu's debt. Recognizing the potential, they have just rated Petroperu for the first time. The evaluation maintains the meaning while expanding the text. And what does Moody's say? Yes, this is a B3 credit. What is B3? It is the last level of what are called junk bonds before the speculative level because it indicates that it is a company that has problems. Nonetheless, if the company can restructure its short-term debt into long-term debt to ensure the company has financial viability for operational factors to function, we can enhance its rating. What is the basis for this? For the Talara refinery to be fully operational. The operation, so that the company can recover its market share and regain its footing. At that point, if the intention of the state, whether this one or the next, has already called for elections, we have elections in a year and a bit, the aim is to keep the company running beyond this government and into the next ones. If privatization is decided, it should be done in a way that keeps it healthy. Jorge, if you were to sell the company now, what amount could you secure? Is it around $3 or $5 billion? Moreover, does it owe 8,800? And who would bear that loss? It would be the state. And how can you afford it without the operational resources to maintain the company? Is it perhaps more logical to restructure, reorganize financially, rehabilitate, and sell it for 10 billion, or to wait 20 years to sell it for 24 billion? I don't know, I'm speculating, I'm making up numbers, but let's say these are the logics that these new realities present to you, that they offer you.
Well, it might be necessary to take into account the warning issued by Exxon, which advises for Petroperu to have successfully activated the flexi-coking unit, although, I had some adjustments to make. Most likely, they were bringing her to a fault that will lead to the company's inability to use it anymore. At least 3/4 have been mentioned as the approximate amount. However, I would like to inquire about the predictions for the oil market during this age of climate concerns. Regarding Peru and in general, how are things going over there?
Despite global tensions and increases, the oil market has maintained remarkable stability, Cesar. Our discussion last week focused on the unstoppable rise in the price of gold. Therefore, we have clearly bypassed significant obstacles in our dialogues. Copper is setting records that are completely unforeseen. New expectations suggest we might end the year at $12,000 per ton of copper. Dimensions. The petroleum has remained stationary, among other reasons, because the market is balanced, demand and supply have balanced out, the peace processes in Ukraine are progressing. Strangely enough, it goes against common sense. We observe that Russia might resume its presence in Western markets by the year end, dealing with oil and gas. Speculation has arisen regarding this matter. Moreover, Venezuela is facing immense pressure. President Trump recently introduces additional tariffs, a measure that was previously unprecedented, to penalize individuals purchasing Venezuelan oil from sources outside of the United States. However, it is already being interpreted as an initiative to keep Venezuelan oil in the United States, effectively closing the doors to others. If the market is balanced, prices are still attractive for production. They continue to be appealing for production in its current form. This poses a threat to the northern strategy of the Trump administration aimed at boosting production by 3 million units. The stability in Petroperu's barrel production is beneficial for their refinery margins, provided the flexi-coking issue is resolved. However, there is a clear problem. The flexi-coking unit significantly enhances the profitability of the refinery. Should they have made unfortunate decisions, it is vital to be open about it and address that issue, since without the flexi-coking operating effectively, the margins for the refinery are not optimal.
Okay, that sounds great. Many thanks, as always, to José Gonzáles. All of these subjects will be covered in the upcoming edition of the Rumbo Minero magazine. Feel free to go to www.rumbominero.com. And he will be able to have all the information about what we discussed in the program and, of course, other articles produced by the whole Rumbo Minero team. Now, a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back. All right, as we finish up the program, Cesar, I think The interview was a positive experience. I believe that, well, we are starting to see some figures that could at least indicate a correct path, right? But there's a big gap between saying and doing. We must observe, well, let's look at the facts and see if things actually get better. There are several topics that you have asked him about, like flexi-coking, for example, which is quite a topic. Isn't it nerve-wracking to feel so uneasy, especially to be extremely nervous? Though we are optimistic that things will get better and turn positive. I'm not sure if it will happen this year, but at least if it's 2027, it's still important for a big company like this, don't you think?
Indeed, the numbers are what truly matter, as attested by José Gonzáles, the international editor of Rumbo Minero. It is evident that Narváez, who is addressed as Dr. Narváez, does not hold a significant position within this context. As dreadful as it seemed at the start of the administration and the anxieties his appointment had stirred. In fact, if the flexi-coking unit at the new Talara refinery fails, it is still considered good, according to confirmation provided by José Gonzáles. The margins are expected to decrease, and Dr. Narváez has cautioned that he may indeed face certain operational challenges in the process.
Now, it is important to call on the president of Petroperu, right? Because it's not just the president who has been mentioned, but the institution for not having
Petroperu.
this. I have done explorations, and that is something that is also known in mining. There is no exploration, there's no mining. So how do we know? We've talked about this many times here. How can we determine if we qualify as an oil-producing country? Opinions are divided. Some argue against it, while others believe we should investigate further to ascertain the truth.
Sure,
no,
it's true.
Well, there has been an enormous amount of information shared, and we are grateful, as always, for their presence with us. Thank you very much, Cesar. Well, in a couple of minutes, we will connect with Peru Builds. We appreciate your support on our Rumbo Minero. Please remain with us to stay updated. We will be here to talk about construction and infrastructure in a few minutes with you. Thank you very much.